Hello, welcome once again to Leto's Law. I'm Steve Leto. I've had several people ask me about the Kevin Hart crash, not just because a beloved Mopar got wrecked, but are there legal ramifications coming down the road from this? And there's been a lot of chatter on the internet about this. So, in case you don't know what's going on, a guy named Kevin Hart, you've seen him on TV, funny man, was involved in a very serious car accident in a vehicle that he owned. He was not driving, he was a passenger in it, apparently. And this was over Labor Day weekend. Sources told TMZ that he had 3 fractures to his spine, and that's some serious stuff. And the procedure was a success that he went into the hospital for afterwards, but they said that he's going to be in a lot of pain and recovery and so on and so forth. But what we're talking about now is what's going to happen with the 1970 Plymouth Barracuda that they were all riding in. That's Kevin Hart, someone else who was driving, and someone who's in the back seat. Because the story is all over the internet that there are lawsuits a-brewing, that there's going to be legal issues arising. And TMZ again has the headline, Kevin Hart's lawsuits almost certain in a car crash case. Lawsuits almost certain, and that's plural lawsuits. So here's the story. Kevin Hart and the 2 people in his car that crashed on September 1 have all lawyered up, according to TMZ. Now, this is interesting because Kevin Hart wasn't the driver. Someone else was. And they're claiming that everyone's got a lawyer. So, sources with knowledge tell TMZ that the driver, who sustained serious back and chest injuries, has an attorney, as does the passenger in the back seat, who sustained minor injuries, and Kevin likewise has a lawyer. But here's the upshot of all of this. The vehicle they were in was a 1970 Plymouth Barracuda that had been heavily modified. And some of those modifications were hideous. They put ugly wheels on it, okay? That's just me. I don't like things that are aftermarket on a car that old, like wheels. Go with the stock wheels. They look cool looking. But they also put a monster engine in it, a 720 horsepower engine. Now, here's the argument, okay? Some people are saying the car didn't have safety harnesses or airbags, which of course 1970 Barracudas did not have safety harnesses or airbags. And so the argument they're claiming is that could constitute negligence. The driver could also be on the hook for Kevin and the backseat passenger, but it's a little premature since the California Highway Patrol is still investigating the cause of the crash. The big issue that TMZ is told is that the company that customized the car could be looking at a lawsuit themselves. And this is the argument that they're raising, and the question is if this is a good one or not, because I don't think it is. The company is an expert, and if Kevin wanted a custom job without safety harnesses, the company should have refused the job because it wasn't safe, especially with a powerful 720 horsepower engine. Of course, the car didn't come with airbags, didn't come with safety harnesses. It came with seat belts, and I believe it may have come with a single cross-the-shoulder seat belts. I know my 1969 Dodge Charger had that. But the argument that they should have retrofitted airbags into it is absurd, okay? I mean, we could have put the entire thing inside one of those big inflatable, what's that ball called that you get inside and you bounce around inside of it? They could have put the car inside one of those and it'd be perfectly safe. It could roll down a hill without getting injured. You know, is it not negligence to put every single car on one side, inside one of those balls? A Zorb, I think is what it's called. TMZ contacted 10 custom car companies nationally and asked them if Kevin's crash has opened their eyes or changed their minds about customizing classic cars without installing safety harnesses. 8 out of 10 said they would install safety harnesses if that's what the customer wanted. Well, they'll install anything you want. That's what they do for a living. But whether they're going to force you to install safety equipment that wasn't standard in the year your vehicle was built, it's not an industry standard to do that. So TMZ claims that this opens up companies to a lawsuit, especially if there are passengers in the car who get injured. But the question is, anybody can sue anybody. Frivolous lawsuits get filed every single day. Just because someone got injured doesn't mean they can file a lawsuit that's going to succeed, okay? So Kevin Hart's in a car that he owns. He had it customized. It's a common customization to put a more powerful engine into an older car. The car is perfectly street legal by every standard. And the argument is, well, they could have put more stuff in, but they didn't and no one did and no law required it. So the idea that this opens up someone to a lawsuit by TMZ's speculation is speculation. And again, like I said, whether it's a good lawsuit or not, it's another thing altogether. Law enforcement sources supposedly told the TMZ that the California Highway Patrol is looking at lobbying the California state legislature to prohibit custom car companies from rolling out products without harnesses, whether the customer wants them or not. So in other words, you want to get your car customized, following that logic, they're going to insist on putting a racing harness in it, whether you like it or not. That's absurd. But no mention of airbags, because that was one of the allegations also, is that the vehicle had no airbags, which they didn't have in 1970, at least not as a standard thing that's installed in cars. So following this logic is crazy. You don't do that. What you do instead is look at the law and what the law says. And, cars are built to standards that are set by NHTSA and the federal government. And they have safety standards. They've got mileage standards, fuel economy, tailpipe standards, all kinds of standards. Cars are built to standards to be roadworthy. And if a car is deemed to be roadworthy, even if the standards change in later years, the car can still be on the road safely. That's how the law has always been. And so is it negligence to take a car that's perfectly legal and drive it and then say, oh, someone got injured in it because it didn't have some stuff that would have been above and beyond what was required by law? And negligence arises when there's a duty to somebody. What duty do you owe people who get into your car, for instance? And the duty is that you're going to keep the car in reasonably safe operating condition. That generally means that the car is going to roll down the road and it's got brakes and so on. And so when you look at this situation, and I was not there, all I saw was the photographs of the aftermath, which looked very sad because it destroyed this beautiful car and injured some people. Was there negligence involved? Well, generally speaking, when a car goes off the road and rolls down the side of a canyon, there's going to be some negligence involved in somebody's part. You'd think, dry pavement. Was there ice on the road? Depends. I don't think there was in September in California. But looking at this, was there negligence on anyone's part? A suspicion might arise regarding the driver of the car. Maybe the driver wasn't doing the most they could to keep the car on the roadway. Were they driving too fast? Were they accelerating? Were they doing anything with the steering wheel other than keeping the car going straight down the road? Were they driving too fast for the conditions? These are all things that sound like they could lead to negligence, but is it negligence on the part of a company that restored this car for somebody and has put a monster motor in it? Is it negligence on their part to not put in airbags, which weren't standard in that year? And I don't even know if they could be retrofitted into this car without doing all kinds of butchery. If an airbag goes in a steering wheel, then suddenly we're talking about a whole different steering column for that car. And then, like I said, well, what about side curtain airbags? Maybe we need to put a different B-pillar. Oh, the car doesn't have a B-pillar. Well, maybe we should install a B-pillar and put some side curtain airbags in there. And by the way, none of the passengers were wearing helmets. Okay? Now, we've seen race car drivers, they wear helmets. Maybe they should be wearing helmets. Oh, and by the way, what about a full NASCAR roll cage? Okay? A NASCAR roll cage probably would have helped the people in this vehicle also. So if we're going to do this, why don't we go whole hog and say all vehicles that get modified to any extent must have a full NASCAR roll cage, 7 or 10 airbags like you'd find in any modern car. It's got to be inside one of those inflatable spheres, a big old Zorb, I think. Again, if I'm wrong on Zorb, someone correct me. But we should put the cars inside that. And then everyone inside the vehicle is going to be wearing the 5-point racing harness, which includes the one thing that goes between your legs, around the waist, over the shoulders, and of course the full face racing helmet like the dragster drivers wear. Okay. Oh, by the way, flame retardant suits are obvious. Require all of those things. Why not? And of course, I hope you get the fact I'm joking on all of this, because the point is this car was perfectly street legal the way it was. And is there negligence on anyone's part? It sounds like the person at the wheel may have been negligent. But beyond that, you can't go back and get the customization or the people who did the job on the car and get them, unless you said, oh, by the way, they forgot to reconnect the brakes, or they didn't connect the steering column or something like that. But if that car rolled out of their shop perfectly street legal and street drivable, Nothing there. Nothing there. So, will there be lawsuits? Probably. There's a lot of money at stake, I assume. But will those lawsuits succeed? Probably not. Will laws change? I hope not. But they could. So that's the situation with Kevin Hart's 1970 Plymouth Barracuda. Unfortunately, the photographs I saw of it looked pretty much wrecked. And some people were injured. I feel very, very sorry for them. I hope they recover. Speedy recovery, my friends. But as for lawsuits against the people who customized the car, seems like a crazy, crazy stretch to me. So there you go. Questions, comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.